This is the fourth and probably the last in the SQL trace videos. And again, the concepts I'm covering in this video are basically totally repetitive of things we've covered in other videos. So if you know how to build an XML document and use the outer XML statement, you basically can skip this video. So what I want to do is right here, I actually want to display the entire message that we receive. So here's our receive statement, and we received a message called message in. So I'm going to define a variable over here called xmldoc. Or you might want to call it var xmldoc or whatever. And it's going to be a .NET class. And then we're going to pick over here system XML. And in this column you're going to look for XML document. They're sorted alphabetically, and that's what you want. System.xml.xml document. Then in this debug statement, basically you're going to say xmldoc. You see I have a capital D there, so I use the IntelliSense to properly spell it for me. And I'm just going to set it equal to the message that we just received. And then here I want to say received initial message, message in equals, and I'm just going to concatenate xmldoc.outer XML. So basically that's going to take the entire XML of that message and put into the trace log. So we're going to have to just simply redeploy our project, and while that's deploying we'll have to recycle BizTalk host. Okay, deploy is on its way here. Deploy has succeeded. That was real time. I did not stop the video. And still waiting on, there it is, BizTalk restarted now. Took a few seconds. And now I want to come over here and drop one of our messages. And now instead of going to hat, if I like my trace better, I just come over here and I can basically watch my orchestration run. And again, in the real world, you might have an orchestration that runs 5 or 10 minutes. And so you can actually see where in the orchestration you are by just clicking the little refresh button here. And you can see now at 1:31 p.m. I now am, I have 3 messages. Actually, wait, there's the end. Yeah, okay. And what I'm looking for is my full message, which is right here. And I have to scroll over a little there. Okay, sorry, it depends where I put my cursor. So you see if I'm in another field, there you see debug. So debug 1 received initial message equals. And now there's your entire XML message of what you received. And you realize that some XML messages could actually be 10, 20,000 bytes long. That's why we used in-text here for the field type of this column. Just let me review that real quick. If you come over here to the table and you look at the field types, you can see that message has a value of in text, which can be, I'm not sure what the limit is, but it can be a very large field. Now, what I often do is, just as my own little debug technique, since it's hard to read here, I'll just open Notepad or some other editor. So there's an empty Notepad screen, and I just come back to SQL and I do a right-click copy and I paste it into Notepad. And then I can also format it just a little bit like this, and I can see my message. If I want to, I could do this type of thing, or you could actually pull it into some XML editor, remove this type of code, and now you have your original message. You could save it to disk. You could open it with XML Spy or Stylus Studio or any other tool. Or another thing I've done in the past is actually copy it into Microsoft Word, and then you can even color code sections of it if you have a big nasty debug that you're working on. So just to recap, what we did in this video is we have shown how to insert the full XML message into our debug column. And the way we did that was we went to here and we created a new variable called xmldoc of type system.xml.xml document. We then basically moved the message to it, and then we used the outer XML field and concatenated that into our debug statement. And remember, this whole thing is being done by a C# routine that I wrote called debug write SQL trace, which is in my common function library. So that concludes this demo of how to use SQL trace. Just let me kind of give you my personal opinion. I love working this way. I mean, my last project, we wrote to this trace file, and again, there might be 20-30,000 rows created per one run, and then again, this is probably obvious, but I can come here, create a new query, and say use custom trace, which is the name of my database, and then I can say select star, or I can actually make my own little query here. Select trace message where trace user key, and then use the word like quite often. It's a little more expensive than doing an equals, of course, where the last name contains, or the first name, the user key is like Neil. Okay, select, I need my from here. Okay, no messages have Neil in the user key, so instead let me look for messages that contain Neil in the message. Okay, so there it read through the entire database, and now I want to add the time to that, so I'll say trace date time, and then I might want to say order by trace date time descending. So everything will basically be backwards. So the things at the top will be most recent. And then again, when the orchestration is running, all I got to do is hit F5 here, and I can kind of watch new rows appear while the database is running. Okay? So again, I highly recommend this technique, but then again, I would double check you can look at the sample code I gave you, but you're going to have to make sure it's enterprise level. You know, we're not guaranteeing that's going to work for your specific environment. You need to actually just stress test and make sure it's going to work for you.